Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I want to make a Christmas tree. Okay, not really a Christmas tree, a tree, but not really a tree that we would know. It's more of a notion tree. Now, this would be great for Christmas, but if we change those bottom words, we would be able to display this all year round. I think Amy Bradley is most known for her Quilting Lady. Now this is an applique pattern and it is a lot of fun. So if you like some quilt ladies, you might relate to this one. If you have some quilting friends, this one might be fun. Of course, beach time is always a fun time. And it'd be nice if we lived in a quilt town. And if we don't live in a quilt town, maybe we should go camping, work in our garden, maybe pull out some pumpkins at the end of the year, and maybe just have some crazy animals or some bugs, some cute little monsters to help us brush our teeth or just to hang around. But the pattern I'm going to be working on today is this holiday sewing tree. She always gives us a couple of different looks, and the patterns are well written. So I talked to Amy and asked her if it could be changed just a little bit so I could use it year round. And so she has making it available so that we can change this bottom saying. We can change it to Happy Quilting, Happy Stitching, Happy Sew Day, and this one is for my friend Rita, So Happy. So we're going to be able to follow the directions exactly the way they are. But this time, we're going to be able to get to change that saying. And that way we can hang it up all year round. I have a great selection of solid fabrics that I'm going to be able to use for this project. They're from Andover Fabrics. And for her striped border, I'm going to use this striped fabric, and it looks like stitching. It is an applique quilt, so let's start getting our pieces ready. They're all numbered, so it's going to make it easy. There are some fabrics here that are going to be a light color. For example, this tape measure. That tape measure is placed over top of some of the other colors. So it is good if we line our fabric, which simply means we're going to have one piece of fabric, the one that we want on the top, and we're going to put a plain muslin or a white fabric underneath. And that way we will not get the shadow of this other pattern or the other fabric underneath. Any of the darker fabrics, we're going to be able to just leave them the way they are and use them for one layer. So the first thing that we need to do is trace out all of our pieces on a fusible web. Mark them and write on those pieces. Now, I would recommend a lightweight fusible web. We are going to be stitching around them, so we don't need that extra thickness of a heavy fusible web. And if we're doing something light, we will be doubling up on that fusible web. Then we are going to be able to trace everything so that we're tracing on the paper side of this fusible web and leave a little bit of room all the way around the outside. The next job is going to be the hardest job, and that's going to be to decide what piece goes on what fabric. With so many beautiful fabrics, this is always the hardest for me. So what I do is I place the pieces that I want on the fabrics that I want. I'm going to take a look and see which ones are the light ones that I need to put that extra piece of fabric on the back so that the fabrics don't shadow through. And the yellow is definitely one. Now, if you have enough of the same color, you can do 2 layers of the same color. If not, you can add the white background. So I'm going to lay out the pieces that I need, and then I'm going to trace around the area that I need to fuse. Take my original pieces off, follow the directions for your fusible web. And when it's cool, we're going to be able to peel off that paper, and then I'm going to be able to fuse on that second piece of fabric. Now I have two pieces of fabric fused together. That means if it's going to go over top of another piece, you're not going to see that color shadow through. I'll be able to take those original pieces now and fuse them onto the back of my fabric. Once I have those all fused together, I will be able to cut out those shapes, and my two layers are going to be together. This is my back, and this will be my front. For the rest of the pieces, I'm just going to be able to fuse those pieces right onto my fabric, let them cool, and they're going to be ready when I need to lay it all out. The next thing we need to do is use a light box or a window and draw some of our lines. Now we're going to put this together layer by layer. And I'm going to use an applique pressing sheet. So we're going to iron on this, not the background fabric. And what we're going to do is we're going to place these pieces down, and we're going to start from 1 to 5, and we're going to follow that order 1 through 5. So for each step of the way, I'm going to peel off the paper, and I can see where it's going to go, and I can take that and just hit it with a very little bit of heat. I can see right through it and know exactly where I'm going to put the placement. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As we're following the order, we're going to be instructed to tuck some pieces underneath and place some pieces over top. So in those cases, we're only going to tack down just a little bit in the center with the iron. And that way we can flip and go as we need. Just tack down a little bit. And now that tape measure, I'm going to be able to tuck it underneath, place it over top, and then I can press that down. Amy is giving us the directions step by step, telling us where to tuck in, what to put on top, so that we're going to get that same look that she has. And I'm just going to let everything stick together. I'm going to let this cool down, and then I'm going to peel it off. See how this is going to peel very easily off of this sheet. But because everything was placed on top of each other, the fusible is sticking one layer over another. Once I've peeled this off into one big piece, I'm going to move that applique sheet down and line everything back up. I'm just going to be careful that I do not press on the paper side, only this applique sheet. And now I'm going to be able to finish ironing on those pieces. Using these applique pressing sheets, we end up making one big applique piece. So I need to prepare this background fabric and press it onto this background fabric. I would recommend that you make sure your background fabric is pressed well first. This is now all stuck on. It is recommended that we put a tearaway stabilizer underneath. So I'm going to put this tearaway on the back and do a blanket stitch all the way around. These marks that I've made, I'm going to do some back stitching. Once I had all of those stitches done, I did add my pins. And I used a little bit of gold thread just to give it a little sparkle. When the project is done, we're going to add buttons on the end of all of these pins and buttons throughout the words. And those would be added on after it's quilted. The pattern does have some great buttonhole tips to get this done. After all those stitches were done, I did take off my stabilizer. I've given it a really good press. Now I can set my cut lines. So I've put my pattern piece on a light surface. So I've lined it up. I'm just going to do a couple of little marks, and then I'll take it off the paper and trim it up. When you do trim this, be sure the measurement is 16.5 inches and 27.5 inches. From there, we're going to add some borders on. So we have a little border and then a large border. That double border really does finish it off nicely. When it's done, I'm going to add those buttons, and it's definitely giving me a very happy sew day. The quilt top is ready to be sandwiched and quilted. Once those buttons are done and the quilting is done, it's going to be really cute. The fabric, I tried to use as many brights and solids as I could. And those background and border fabrics were from a child's print called In the Jungle. A lot of times we don't look at those fabric lines because we're not making a child's quilt. Well, in this case, that fabric really did lead to something, well, that's not child related. Their solids and their patterns are really great to pull into some quilting designs. So keep that in mind if you're looking for some fun borders and some fun background fabrics that maybe are not for children. I'll put some links in the description, and I'll put a link in the description to the words so that you can choose what words you want on your quilt. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. Bye for now.